Hello, this is Dr. Mike. This is for my CIS 2642 pen testing class, and this is a look at Topic 8, which is Exploit and Pivot Part 1. And so we're taking Chapter 6, and we're going to split that into two, and we'll see here, we split it about when we talk about pivoting, I believe. So it's Chapter 6 in the textbook, but we don't do all of it here. So anyways, Exploit and Pivot, Part 1, Part 2. What we're going to focus more on is the actual exploit. Again, we're digging into exploits, and this is almost a continuation of my last week's demo where we did actually exploit cross-site scripting, reflective cross-site script. But this is a very simple execution, a very simple test. So, but again, we're going to be using Chapter 6 here. I won't go through the textbook here. I do have some summary slide deck. I think we end up with leveraging exploits before we get into persistence and evasion and pivoting. In any case, the whole chapter itself is about the pivoting process. And so, yes, we're back to my diagram here. Again, we found a vulnerability, and it's possible we may have tested it out, or maybe we could take it to the next level. We're going to actually go look into actually executing an exploit, and if you actually get to work, that itself might be enough for a client. So if it's a simple web application vulnerability scan, the fact that you can verify a vulnerability, even if you can't, always show that maybe a scanner found it, especially if two scanners found it. So again, it's going to depend on your engagement rules of engagement, the scope of work, but in maybe a larger full pen test where you have the ability to exploit, you do get the exploit to work, you actually do what's called pivoting, which means you're in the system, but you go back to recon, and you go back and look for more vulnerabilities. And that's what this chain here is for. Yeah, it's the exploit pivot chain here. What that really means is, so maybe that's not your final target. Maybe you found an exploit on an open desktop or a side system that's really not your main target. But you use this to go ahead and you sort of hack your way in from the outside, get in a little bit, look around a little bit, scan, look around, and then find something else to latch onto and move it around. So as you move from system to system until you get to your final target. So sort of a little quick way to look at it there. Anyways, we'll look at the textbook here, the Chapter 6, Topic 8. Again, so we've already done this before. We should start early, even early as recon. You're mapping vulnerabilities to exploits. Especially things with high ratings or things with CVSS scores that are very easy to kick off, of course, externally. If you have something that needs, if CVSS comes back saying it needs a local terminal, or you need to be physically in front of this device, again, it's still a good thing you report to your client, but you might not be able to take it to the next level. And of course, with rules of engagement, a very common one is DDoS. Almost all the time I get, please don't DDoS anything. Again, as far as you get is the scanner shows that it's possible DDoS with this vulnerability hooked to the CVE. That's it. You put in your report and you move on. So, but again, looking for basically the quality of likelihood of success. So, again, scanner results are going to give you that. Go back one there. So, based on your operating system, you've got very high severity. Again, work at the top stuff. And if you go through these and you vet them, maybe not all of these are actually valid. It could be the MySQL conf security bypass. You might look at that and say, you don't have that condition. It could be a configuration of the server or something about the system, or could there be a web app firewall in front of it that's blocking that? Maybe this is port 8022 is being blocked, but you happen to have access around that web app firewall for testing. So you need to consider the whole environment. And you would say, well, this is still a possibility, and it looks like it might actually be an exploit, but your web app firewall is protecting it, but don't depend upon that. So it's not always yes or no there. There's a lot of gray areas sometimes. As you vet the results, though, again, look at your desktops, look at the links, look at CVE links. Here's a CVE link. It's fantastic. You want those CVE links. You see it's possible to upload a file. Here's actual, here's actual, in this case, it's like a test system here. 8022, OpenVAS, Chess JSP. And so again, we're going to go back to exploit DB. We'll talk about some stuff in Rapid 7. Specifically, we're going to look at, not going to look at NISP and not going to look at VulnDB. Again, check those out. I don't want to show everything. I want to show you what I might look at. And I've shown some before, so a little bit might be a repeat. But the idea is we want to find an exploit proof of concept to use. And the thing is, these don't always work as is. If you try running one of these in Metasploit, which we'll see here in a second, it just might not kick off. So you might need to move and do it manually. And you might need to make adjustments. It could be, you might need to encode, maybe some encoding to get around some mitigations, things like that. Or just change information that's in the actual exploit. So again, most of the time you might need to actually modify the exploit to get it to work. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to show that we can get an exploit to kick off. Metasploit, again, fantastic. This is the one thing you probably should, your first stop to look at, besides exploit DB. And we'll look at some of these here in a second. But again, yeah, here's some slide deck. Shows you Metasploit console, the MSF prompt. Again, search is going to be one of your things. Or show. Show exploits. Again, you can get a lot of this stuff though. So, and then of course the use exploit. Use your tab completion, exploit tab, Windows tab, and so on. And then when it's loaded, you'll see it's actually been loaded, and you can actually use that exploit. Again, show options or show all or show. We'll show these settings. Again, you need to set. So sets our host, of course, your target. Change the port number possibly. Any other options so you can see if it's required or not. So again, of course, we need a target to hit against. And you can type in run or exploit, depends on it. And either one should work. I usually type exploit for exploits. I do run for scanners. But again, you can see if it worked. It may move out my cleanup, take note of that. But this is the kind of stuff you want to put in your notes. And a lot of times you might get this to run, it might not say anything. So in this case, it says the interpreter session was open. That is a huge deal right there. That means you have a remote shell. That's what interpreter is. So, ding ding ding! You just won the hacking contest there for that one. Again, they rank these things, how good the exploits are. An excellent exploit, you basically just how great it works, auto detect and so on. So look that over. Also, how you search. You can search by CVE, exploit DB ID numbers, and so on. So this is where you dig into Metasploit, and maybe we'll look at that when we get a little deeper into Metasploit here in a second. There is something called Powersploit. Beware it's there. It's an alternative Metasploit in case you have a Windows system. You can set it up. I've never run it myself. I always just load Kali in a VM when I'm on a Mac or on Windows, and I use that as it is. But there's nothing wrong with using Windows. You just load the tools as needed. Might need some extra setup, but you do have the Powersploit framework available. Again, we're looking at common exploit targets, normal procedure calls, internal calls, Windows management interfaces, SMB, that's a big one. SMB is, or Samba, or server message blocking. That's where a lot of exploits have come through. So again, I'm looking through all these. These are the areas you can look for. SSH, Telnet. If Telnet's open, that's always a good one. And anyways, so we'll limit that there. So another example is this, and I may have shown this before. It's possible during my my scan, and maybe I did this scan within, here I did within exploit, within Metasploit. I see there's 2.3.4. I do a scan for VSFTP. You can see here. That's all I did. And I saw there was 2.3.4 backdoor command and execution. It says this unit is an author's Metasploit. That's a key right there, and it has it has an actual downloadable exploit code, and it has exploit information inside there, and it's been validated. So again, you can see here they actually give you the code, and it looks like that's a Metasploit. This is a Metasploit code framework here. So you can actually download the author. There's the exploit DB ID number. You can it's 17491. So again, if we wanted to go here, we can search for certain things. Let's do a search. What was that again? 17491. 17491. I think I just got, actually no, I got a CV number inside there. But in any case, you can search for it inside there. This is why I got screenshots. Make it a little quicker for you. Again, so we go back, we look for search VSFTP. So look at the search, look for VSFTPD. Now you might get multiple. In this case, there's only one. This FTP version, by the way, is bundled with Metasploitable 2, so which makes it a great target. And this is a known. This wasn't actually a real exploit that's been patched, but there's a backdoor condition. So again, you can see it matches up. We have the .rb exploit there, backdoor. And again, here I use exploit, and then I show options. In this case, I set my rhost. So set rhost. Now this is rhost. Sometimes you might get rhost or rhost. Then you might trip up on that. And I always verify the port number. Back to my scan results, I know it's port 21, but it could be 2121 or some other higher level port maybe the client has set up. It verifies goes, and bam, type exploit. And you can see it runs, and actually I have a remote shell, so that screenshot would be worth gold right there. So anyways, again, I'm not going to do a full demo here. We'll do another demo. Actually, we'll do a recorded demo separately. So things to look at. So again, after we've got that, exploit DB is a good place to look. I think I've shown this already. You can search for CVE. There you go. You can search for certain types, ports, and so on. But I want to show you other things too. Again, packet storm. Exploits. Let's search to see if there's VSFTP. I'm not sure. I've done this yet here. Nope. All right, let's just do FTP. That's files. Search for exploits. There we go. I want to do a search. You get bounced around. A lot of times I use Google. Use from Google Kung Fu. So site, packetstorm, packetstormsecurity.com, and then like for VSFTP and so on. But you might find stuff inside here. Here's a cross-site scripting, and you can see there's actual information here about it. It could be sample code. But a security notice. Again, a lot of times you might get information about the notice. And this is good stuff, though. Don't think because there's no exploit here. There's details about the advisory, and this is good stuff that goes in your notes. So, but you might find stuff in the exploits. You might find actually exploit code. There you go. So again, so yeah, here you go. Post parameters and so on. Again, these aren't always going to work out of the box. If it's a Python script, you can download it, or if it's a shell script or a piece of Java code, you might need to edit it to make it work. Another part of this exploit process, of course, is a password field. Any kind of login field. You can go ahead and set up an attack. And a lot of the apps you're going to have built-in dictionaries, so you can use a dictionary attack is probably the one thing you want to use the most. You can make a custom dictionary, but early on you might just go and just throw a general attack against it. And you might get some alternative dictionaries. And for example, I can go to WeakPass, and there's all kinds here: big, small, medium, online. So let's look at a medium one. Now, again, if I get a huge, here's passwords.txt. So if I get a huge file, this is 184 megabytes. That's not too bad. So teach you how many there are in that. There's, what is it, 1.5 million passwords. I can download this and I can run it. So at least you have a source, weakpass.com. But again, if you get a huge file, this is 107 gigabytes. It's a 17 gigabyte file compressed. Realize the larger the dictionary attack, the longer it's going to take. Something you can show though is during this attack, if you're running maybe in Burp Suite or using some other attack platform like Hydra or X-Hydra, if it's running and it's not blocking your attack, a lot of times Burp's great for this because you'll start to see 500 errors, and you can say, oh, this is actually time after like 1,000 attempts, I was blocked, which is good for the client. But maybe you want to tell that you should be less than that, or maybe they're not blocking any attacks at all. So how the client reacts to the attack is part of your test, so keep that in mind. Another thing you can look at too also is MITRE. Now, I don't talk too much about MITRE. MITRE is really used a lot for defense. It's a very powerful framework. It's a little deeper. Again, we look at the MITRE attack framework. It is almost similar if we looked at sort of recon, vulnerability, exploit, loot. Again, with our testing process, the more time you have, you might end up going back to recon. This is part of that recon process, by the way. Recon means yourself is going back and you're finding more possibilities and you find a vulnerability. Maybe you can exploit it. The MITRE stuff could be a big search. Leverage Google, leverage the MITRE search. Honestly, I think we want to look at is OWASP top 10, especially for web-based exploits. And I did a demo for cross-site scripting reflective. We'll do more demos where we look at actually doing a persistent cross-site scripting, and we'll look at other things with SQL injection and so on. So again, it is a huge extension of your scanner, taking your scanner, using those results, and collecting them. So again, there's a bunch of overlap here between vulnerability and exploiting. That's what this channel is right here. You're constantly going back, trying another vulnerability, see the exploits, maybe modifying it, trying it again. If it works, that's good. It could be you have your loot. Maybe that's the main system. And that loot could be anything. And what is loot, by the way? I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Loot could be, hey, here's what can I access? With this exploit, with this configuration against this URL or this port and service you have, loot could be as anything deep as I can get your passwords, I can pull down I can get root access. That's above all. If you root access, admin access, you won. But what can you get? Maybe if you don't have full admin access, what do we have access at that exploit? Is there a possibility for you to modify access and have read-write privileges to certain system files? You may not want to actually modify those files, but you might want to get a screenshot of them in Linux ls-l or just Windows. You get the Windows properties for maybe a certain system file, maybe it's an ini file or a config file, showing that you have read-write privileges, or again ls-l, and then try exploring around. And then we're actually going back to recon. So I know it looks like we're back here. Even with the possibility of looking for loot, your recon can be here. Here's where I can get to. Here's what I can touch. I didn't make any changes. Again, we are white hat hackers, right? We're not black hat. But you can see the damage I can do. So, and we're going to explore this deeper here. So for now, though, I know I've probably gone further than I should have. For now, though, we can see where we're trying to do is get to leveraging exploits. That's what we're allowed to get to. So again, think back to Metasploit, PowerSploit, and of course OpenWall, and of course your password file cracking is a huge one. And I believe the lab you have for this week at the time of this recording is actually looking at password cracking with Hashcat, John Ripper. So again, anytime you see logins, you get access to login pages, bookmark them, put them in your notes, and see if you can keep that login page open, if you can consistently hit it with an attack. So anyways, that should wrap it up. Again, I'm not going to try to get much in the demo here. We'll do a separate demo. Maybe we'll look at a demo with cross-site scripting again. I mean, we'll extend that with Metasploit, or we'll look at a buffer overflow. So anyways, actually kicking those off. So again, we'll pick up here with persistence and evasion and really pivoting. And so we'll look at that next. Anyways, hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.